I'm Ben from Sonic Guild, the executive director of Sonic Guild Seattle, and Kay, who you met already, works with me on our team. And we're going to talk quickly about our new tour support grant pilot program that we're running right now. So just to check the room, can I identify how many musicians do we have in the audience here today? Okay.
Musicians.
And of those musicians, is your mic working? Of those musicians, how many of you guys or folks have toured before in some capacity? Great, okay. Well, you know, a lot of the conversations we've been having here at the Music Policy Forum is how musicians make money. And oh, thank you. Oh, that's so thank you. We were talking about how do musicians make money. And in the old model, it was tour to sell records. And now in this new model, this world we're living in, it's really to make records to tour because that's where the revenue is. And so that all makes sense once you've established an audience. But a lot of what we're talking about with emerging artists is how do you get there? How do you get to that point where you can start selling tickets in rooms outside of your home market? So we all know that prices have spiked past or post-pandemic, and that, you know, in 2024 the average price of a gallon of gas was $3.30. But in large cities, you know, like the ones where people live, where we want to go play for, that's like $4.75. So for a Seattle artist to do a 7-day West Coast tour down to San Diego and back, you're looking at probably over $600 just in gas alone, and that's not taking vehicle, lodging, or any of those sorts of things. So how do you build that scale to do that? So we were inspired by seeing the challenges that musicians were facing in our community and beyond to try to create this tour support grant program that we've kicked off to really try to help with that pressure point in some ways to help provide some subsidy for artists when they tour. So Kay, maybe I'll pass it for you a little bit, and maybe you could tell the background story, if you don't mind, about what was inspired us to get to this point.
So we were having conversations with local musicians and talking about what are the problems you face in going on tour. And we met some musicians who sold their gear in order to fund their tours, or who took some really odd jobs before then. We met one specific local artist that I'm sure everyone in this room knows that was selling their couch, the couch that they needed to sit on in order to go on tour. And we were like, we can't be selling our couches anymore.
You got to have some place for the next band coming through town to sleep on when they come through. So if you sell the couch, you can't do that. So we were inspired originally by, for those of you that are familiar with South Arts and their program Jazz Roads Touring, and that they'd been doing this in the jazz space. And what we found, you know, being a nonprofit that supports a lot of popular music artists, is that historically in the philanthropic space, there's been an appetite to support jazz or traditional, you know, symphonic music, opera, ballet, or things like that. But the conversation's gone a little more cold when it gets to popular music. And so we tried to create a mechanism that could support that, but based on some of the learnings and things that South Arts had done and other folks like that. And then we also identified that as an established nonprofit or an emerging nonprofit, that we could create a level of trust within the business community or other people that might support something like this, where they might not write a check to an artist alone. So how can we be that the intermediary that can get money? You know, I always say Microsoft, they might want to support music in our community. They can hire a band once to play at one of their performances, but they're not going to write them checks to do all the other stuff they need to do. So how can we create that catalyst where they will support, they'll donate to us, and then we can help spread that support out to a variety of different people. Kay, will you just talk a little bit about how the process works, like how do artists apply for it and everything?
Absolutely. And first I want to also share that before this was even funded, or when this was just a dream, we sent out a survey about going on tour. And this, you know, this wasn't, no university helped us do all the right things. We really were like, we just need data to communicate to funders and to communicate the needs of our community. So we sent out a survey. We got a few hundred responses from local touring musicians, which was so helpful to be able to talk about that. So big takeaway from this conference is definitely know your data and collect your data. But then after that, we were like, okay, let's make this as easy as possible for musicians. So it's just a very simple form that you fill out. We tried to make it as accessible as humanly possible. And then after that, a panel just meets and selects the artists based on a few sets of criteria. And they're all community stakeholders. A few of them are people in this room right now. Go ahead.
Well, I would say we can't say who, but no, we could. So again, we think about these kind of programs, and I think sometimes we can get into this mindset where we're looking for the perfect solution, this global solution that does everything and solves every problem. And I'm a firm believer in iterative change, that I'd rather start solving some corner of the problem than wait for in perpetuity for some solution that'll never materialize. So people say, so what kind of money are we talking about? This program's set up that artists can get $150 a show for up to 10 shows. So we're talking about $1,500. And in the average part of the world, there's probably people you're going to talk to on the funding side. They'll be like, I just had a bottle of wine that was $1,500 last night. But we talk about what that impact is in music. And Kay, I think, can speak to one of our first round of grant recipients just got back from a tour, being Brenna Bruce and those folks. And maybe talk about the story that they told coming back receiving this funding.
Yeah, so we had one artist go on the road. It was their very first tour ever, and they had made a budget for it, and they came back to me and they were like, it's actually not possible. Did you know that it's not possible to create a successful budget to go on tour? And we were like, yes, we did know that. Welcome to the music industry. And seeing how slim these margins are, right? It's how we can imagine for this grant. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but the margins are so slim and artists really can stretch it. So when Brenna got back from that tour, her first tour ever, we had randomly, unrelatedly booked her for a show for one of our Sonic Guild members. We have monthly shows for our members who are our donors. And she shared this bone-chilling story about how it was her first tour and she didn't feel like she had a future in the music industry and that there was no way that she could make any money, and only because of the tour support grant, she had a successful tour and made money off of it as well.
Because if you only go on tour once, it was just a vacation. It wasn't a tour, right? Theoretically, you're trying to do something you can repeat over and over again and grow and scale as you do it. So I encourage you, if any of y'all would like more information, you can go to sonicguild.org/tour support. That's where the landing page is for this program. I'll say this is a pilot program. We got funding for 1 year for this program to try it out. And so we're gathering the stories and the data and the metrics to make that case to the funder that funded this first round, but this potential to any number of funders, right? I mean, I think that this is an identifiable place where we can say to people and that we can show them the impact. The last thing I'll say in this is that, I'm Seattle first, even though I work for an organization that works in other places. This is a starter advantage for Seattle artists. If we're helping to subsidize to get them on tour, that's more artists from our region that potentially can be successful. And I think that we have to think about that in any of our localities. I mean, Washington State, you can talk to Shannon. They do a bunch of work with the Apple industry. They'll take them on missions internationally or things like that to help them try to sell apples. We need to do the same thing to sell music. And this is one of the ways to do that. So I know we're running short on time, and thank you, Michael, for adjusting the schedule. I wasn't going to do this necessarily, but the Black Ends, one of our artists that's received one of our primary grants and now our tour support grant, just posted this that I saw while we were sitting here today. And I thought it was so moving that I just wanted to share with you. And this is from Nicole Swims. And they said, 7-week tour, and they received one of our tour support grants. They said, 7-week tour is quite a feat. Grueling, doubt, bad moods, euphoric, moods, bad shows, great shows, weird gear, out-of-tune guitars. It's been the time of my life, and I feel surreal for doing it this long. A beautiful time with my good friends, and I hope every band gets to experience this one day. Music means so much to me, even if it feels like it's not worth it sometimes. It feels egotistical sometimes. It makes me feel like giving up sometimes. But remembering how far you've come makes it all worth it over and over again. Back to your roots, back to why you picked up that instrument in the first place. Very thankful to be here. Thankful I lived through my shit to be able to see the other side of it. The world is tough, and being alive is terrifying. To be here with all of you and with music is the best life I could ever ask for. And they say, today we're playing a beach in France. I'm going to pronounce the city wrong. What a gorgeous music venue. Can't believe we get to play something like this. Tomorrow we're playing at Torello, Spain for a festival called Fet Festival. Thanks to you, everybody. See you around. This is why we do it, people. This is why we do it. Thanks very much. On to the next panel. Cheers.